Okay. Hello and good afternoon. Hello and welcome. Raza here from Sage Mentor. After a few weeks break, we decided to start the talk show as well because of some of my commitments. That's one of the reasons I could not continue with the talk show, but hopefully we will continue the talk show going forward. So I have my very good friend. We've been friends since 2018, and Goldsmith. And the idea is, and first of all, welcome to the talk show.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really lovely to be here. I'm so excited to be here. And obviously, like I say, we've been friends for a long time, and to see each other again, so it'd be great.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And thank you for taking the time to part of this show. Now, let me give you the model as the question. Since number one is that where you grew up, where your parents met, where you grew up, what was your childhood like? What was your, the first profession? Why that first profession? And then why the coaching world? And then the other thing is the guys, which you don't know about Anne, is that Anne is, she has got the idol Bruce Lee, and then she is a martial art expert as well. And she's two down and she's working on it to become that. So, and without further ado, let me put you into the spot and let you talk about that.
Okay, so what did you want to talk about first? About my parents?
Yeah, where your parents born and how they met up, and then where you're born and everything, and how your childhood like.
Right, okay, so my mum is from Jamaica, and my mum came to this country in 1960, and I remember, well, I don't remember, but obviously I wasn't born then, but she tells me the story that
yeah.
It was the first time she'd ever left Jamaica, ever. And the day she arrived here, it was deep snow. She was freezing, absolutely freezing. She said she was so cold she cried because she'd lived in Jamaica all her life. Her parents, so my grandparents, her father was a police officer, a policeman, and her mum, my grandma, I don't know. I never met my grandparents, and they're no longer with us. Actually, I've got a photo. I'm going to show you. Excuse the noise. I have a photo here. This is a photo of my granddad.
Oh.
And I actually think I look very much like him, in fact.
You do, yeah, indeed.
That's a photo. I'm just going to, excuse me. I just suddenly thought that. And this is a photo. This is my mum. This is my mum when she was 18, and that's my grandma.
Wow, amazing.
And my grandma was Syrian, apparently. So my grandma was Syrian, and my granddad was Jamaican. So I don't know how they met. I think they just lived, near to each other in Jamaica. And my mum had a very, very happy childhood. Really good childhood. Most of her sisters became nurses, and we were talking before we went live about medicine being in your family, but I think all of my mum's sisters, all of my aunts became nurses. And then my mum lived here and got married here. So I grew up in Aylesbury, so not where I live now. And my childhood, I grew up on a council estate. So I grew up on a council estate with, my mum had 4 children, and she was a single parent when I was younger, single parent raising all of us. And, we often talk about community and family. And I know, generations ago, everyone's family helped look after children and things, but obviously all my mum's family at the time were in Jamaica. Some of them lived in England, but she raised us on her own. She didn't train as a nurse before she left Jamaica, so she had about 4 or 5 different jobs, basically just to make ends meet and feed us all. However, I had the most amazing childhood. I was outside all day. Outside all day with my friends, used to play in the street. I'd go off on my bike, and I'd be out for hours. until, you know, it got dark or I was hungry or I could hear my mum yelling for me. That's just sort of what life was like then. And I had a great childhood. You know, don't get me wrong, it was tough. And that my mum had an extremely tough life. You know, a black woman coming to England in 1960. Now, obviously, things had changed, but she, you know, she had a very, very tough life. She did. It was more tough for her once she got divorced as well. So she did have a very tough life.
Right.
She was, yeah, she still is. She's still with me, thankfully. But my mum is, I get my strength from my mum. She's, even growing up, like I say, we had very, very little growing up. She was always positive, really, really strong character, you know, really strong character. Always so generous. You know, she would give somebody her last anything just to help somebody else. And again, I think I've sort of got that from her, because I've always been like that and always, you know, want to help others. So, but yeah, I get my strength from her. And it's funny because I mentioned that she had COVID at Christmas, and she's 84, and it's really taken a long time for her to sort of bring herself back. And I remember just a couple of months ago we were talking about this, and I actually said to her how I reminded her how strong she is, because she was thinking she was never going to recover from the after effects of COVID. And I said, "Oh, you are so strong." I said, "I get my strength from you." And what was really interesting was she was surprised. She was really shocked that I thought that she was strong, and that I say I get my strength from her. And it was a really quite a special moment, because I said, "I really do," you know, and I sort of reminded her of a lot of the hardships she's endured and overcome. And I said, "I remember that growing up, and I can still remember, I was 8 years old, thinking, gosh, my mum deals with so much, but she just gets on with it, and she is so strong." And when I reminded her of that, that really lifted her, because she hadn't given that a thought at all. You know.
No, that's I mean, thing is that the elders are the blessings for us, and then we do get the strength from them, but they don't realize that because we don't tell them enough that we love them and we care for them. You see, that's the thing.
And I think, you know, probably the same for you with your elders, with your family, that, you know, I feel my mum, she had real struggles and overcome a lot of really difficult times. And obviously being a black woman, moving to England back then as well. And I think she paved the way for me, so that she sort of had the struggles so that me and the rest of us, her children and grandchildren, and she's got great grandchildren now, you know, I said to her, it all starts with her when she wasn't feeling great after COVID. And I said, "Look what you've achieved. You know, you've got 4 children, you've got grandchildren, you've got great grandchildren, and we've all turned out pretty okay." Just, you know, quite
definitely it's worthwhile. So when you were growing up in the council estate, what was like, you know, what subject did you study, and why you end up in the teaching?
Okay, so my secondary school, so where I lived, like I said, it was a council estate, and at the time my secondary school was one of the worst. In fact, I think it was the worst, or, you know, classed as the worst secondary school in the area at that time. However, I loved my education, so I really enjoyed school. I was quite an academic person. I actually always got on with my work. I never got into trouble. I worked really hard. I did really, really well during in the lessons, and got great results. I do remember my reports, though, after I'd done the exams, that often the reports would say, you know, Anne didn't do as well as we thought she would in the exams. So I had everything, but when it came to the exams, I didn't quite get there. But I still got very good grades. But it's quite interesting, you know, that's just sort of triggered a thought in me and made me think about the pressures that our children, teenagers and young people are under now,
Mm.
performing in exams. I mean, at the time, I didn't really think about it because I'd done really well, but you know, there was always you can do better.
Mm.
You know, but it just reminded me actually of the pressures that children and teenagers are under now to perform, and it's much more than it was then, or much more than it was for me, say, at the school that I was at. And however, it was the teachers there, or 5 or 6 teachers there, in fact, who inspired me to become a teacher.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, it was 5 or 6 teachers that just really supported me, had faith in me. Just, they were brilliant. I loved the way they taught. One of them was my English teacher, one was my religious education teacher, one was my French teacher, one was PE teacher, so I absolutely love PE, which we're talking about. So all of these teachers just inspired me to want to be a teacher, because it was more than just being a teacher. You know, they connected with me, they understood me, they helped me, they supported me. And yeah, it was just their whole approach, you know, their whole approach. I mean, one teacher who's no longer with us, but he was amazing. And it just shows the difference in times, because he had a real samurai sword on his desk.
Okay. That's interesting.
You wouldn't be allowed that now, obviously, but
Of course.
he was so, you know, so cool. He was a brilliant teacher, and he was my English teacher. And when I became a teacher, I actually did an English teaching degree, because he inspired me, and his support and my love of English through him, you know, that was one of the reasons. He was one of the reasons I became a teacher, and I did an English degree with my teaching. So, you know, but yeah, it was those teachers. There were some teachers who compared me to my brother. So my brother was at the same school, and my sister, but my sister was 10 years older than me. So one of my brothers went to the same school, and he was very academic and head boy and things. And I often got told, oh, you know, you're not like your brother, or why don't you like biology, or why aren't you good at biology like your brother? So that was quite interesting. And again, that sort of those comments feed into my coaching and what I do when I work with my clients, with children and teenagers. And it's quite interesting when you sort of trace these things back. However, I just knew that I wanted to be a teacher. There is I knew I wanted to be a teacher. At that time, bearing in mind I was 16, because of myself, but also because of the teachers who had sort of said to me, oh, you know, why aren't you as good as this? Or you could do better. I didn't go to university at that time, because I felt that maybe I wasn't clever enough. Maybe I wasn't smart enough to go to university. And also at that time as well, you know, we could leave school at 16 then. And I just thought, I want to go out to work. I want to get a job. I want to earn some money. I want to learn to drive and all those things. So actually, I was what I describe as a real homebody. I loved being at home. I loved being at home with my mum. So I didn't really want to go to university. And I decided I went to college, and then I got my first job. I did go to university and get my degree, but that was after working for 12 years. And then I gave up work. I worked for 12 years, gave up work, and then I went back to university, back to studying, and did a 4-year full-time teaching degree, English degree. So
wow. Okay.
I went as a mature student, so I went about it in a different way.
The thing is that this whole saga started because of those teachers give you those limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Because I think the one thing parents or the teachers should not do is that should not compare their own children with somebody else, or their cousins or their siblings or somebody, because everybody is unique. If you were not unique, imagine everybody's Raza and everybody's Anne. World is not a good place, is it?
as we are, Raza, it wouldn't be a lot of fun, would it? If
Not at all.
we got to talk to people that were like ourselves, it wouldn't be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so and I think that's the important message here as well, because people don't realize that even as a parents, when we compare our children with somebody else, children doesn't like it because we are giving them a limiting belief.
Oh,
Which
exactly.
is not healthy.
Exactly. And the thing is, as you'll know, and through my coaching and everything, we know that these limiting beliefs start, when you're a child. They come from excuse me, teachers, parents, family, everything. And we, because we're young, we just take these on and believe it to be true. It's only as we get older we realize and we work through if we do. Some people do, some people don't, and obviously that's why a lot of people come to me and you as coaches, to help them.
Indeed. So from there, from the teaching, what lead you into the coaching world? Why suddenly love of teaching disappears, kind of thing, and gone into the coaching world? Because I know for a fact that I've come across the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, any profession. After 10 years, they start slipping away from their love of their profession, including me. I'm a techie. I hate technology. 10 years was great. 18 years was drag. So 30 years in the technology, and I said to my wife this year, I'm retiring. No, you can't. Why? The kids needs to get married. It's not my responsibility, but yeah, there you go. So what happened? What lead you from the teaching to the coaching world?
Yes, so I was a teacher for 16 years and I love teaching. Teaching is such a rewarding job. It's a very all-consuming job as well. It's consuming, and it is, as a teacher, a lot of people think, oh, you get all the summer holidays off. You don't get all the summer holidays off because you have to do planning, and yes, you do get a lot of time off in the summer.
Yeah.
However, you do also have a lot of work during the holiday periods as well. And I love teaching. It's really, really rewarding. Yet it's really all-consuming. And also, as a teacher, I loved being a class teacher, and I loved the classrooms I had, every student. However, obviously, I'm a behaviour consultant and parenting coach. So when it comes to behaviour in the classrooms, the curriculum and the education system isn't really geared up for supporting every child with the behavioural issues. Now, I've done it as a class teacher in many schools and many classes where I've taught. It's hard work, and I want to help. So I could help. I helped and transformed the behaviour of every child in my class. I supported every child. So this is not just about me supporting the children with behavioural issues. I supported everyone. However, the school system and the curriculum isn't designed for that. And I knew that actually to do that, I needed to be able to do it on more of a one-to-one basis. And that's why I left teaching. It was, initially I went down to teaching 3 days a week instead of full-time to have more time. And actually also at the time, why I started my business is because both my son and daughter, their behaviour was really, really difficult at that time. So it was very difficult going off to work doing a full-time job when I had the behavioural issues of my own children. And back then, there was nobody to ask and support, which is why I do this, because I know what it feels like as a mum and as a parent, having your children behave in this way. And I remember thinking, I'm a teacher, this shouldn't happen to me. Why is this happening to me? What have I done? I'm a bad mother. And all these things that we think as mums and we think as parents. And we see other parents and with their children, and we think, oh, their child's behaving brilliantly and they've got it all sorted. But it's not actually until parents start speaking to each other that in fact realise, oh, okay, that's what it looked like then, but that's not the reality, and that's what it's like. But that's why I decided that I needed to set up my business so that I could reach more people, more families individually, and in my approach, because in a way that I know it works, which, because obviously, you know, when you do things yourself, you can follow your approach. In school, you have to follow the system, have to follow this and that. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I still follow procedures and things, but my approach is different to how I would be able to approach children and parents in school. But the catalyst for that was, so I was working 3 days a week, and then actually it was the 27th of April 2015, I had an accident.
I see.
I had just a freak accident at home. So my husband had gone to work, he was working in London at the time, my son had gone to school, and I was at home with my daughter, who was 9 at the time, and she was going off on her first ever longest school trip from Monday to Friday. And she was excited, I was excited, but I'm a mum, and I was a bit sort of, oh, I hope she'll be all right, all those feelings we have as mums.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready actually to go off to my teaching job that my 3-day-a-week teaching job. And I wasn't feeling well, and my daughter's suitcase was ready by the door. I was just getting ready before we were literally just about to leave the house. And I wasn't feeling great. And then I was walking into our bathroom, and I just felt really dizzy, and I fell, hit my head, and I cracked my head open. And the only person who was with me was my 9-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
So her big trip, luckily my friend who lived around the corner at the time, her daughter was going on the same trip, and I called her and she came over, ambulance came and all sorts of things, and my daughter did end up going off on her school trip. However, I was unable to drive for a year. I was unable to, go to my job. So whilst I was recovering, I was talking to my husband, and I'd been thinking about starting my own business, but hadn't done about it. So nature, the universe, whatever you call it, something there sort of made me stop. And my husband said, well, why don't you spend the next year setting up your business? So that's how it began. That's how it started.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Like I had your head cracked open. Doesn't like the sound of it, but I understand.
It wasn't nice, and it was not. It was very traumatic for my daughter, of course. But
I'm sure it is. I mean, one thing which makes me realize that why is that something really drastic happened to us before we change our direction? Why is that? I've never known.
I'm a great believer in, some people say everything happens for a reason. And yes, you could say that, but then there are sometimes that things that happen aren't great. Well, what happened wasn't great. However, you can find a reason in everything that happens, I think. And, if I think about it, thinking, back then, would I have started my business once I'd recovered? Possibly not, but I was recovering for a year. So I thought, well, there's nothing stopping me now. So, it was something that was meant to happen. It was my reason for it happening, I think, rightly or wrongly, whether you believe in any of that. But that's what that was the catalyst. That was what started the ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying in Muslim. There's a saying in Muslims that there is a plan we plan, and there is a plan he has, which is better than ours. So that could be the reason.
Yeah.
Now tell me, how did you end up in the martial arts and then going through the first dan, second dan, and
okay.
Let's keep it to the last part. So that's why I left it.
So after I had my son, so my son is now 20, and after I had him, so me and my husband were together for 10 years before we had children, because of obviously me going to university later in life and things. It was all how we planned it. And after I had him, it was quite interesting because I'd sort of lost a bit of my identity.
Right.
For 10 years, I knew who I was. I was Anne Goldsmith. I was, knew everything about myself. I was confident. Everything was, as it was, as I wanted it to be. And then I had our son, and obviously I was really happy. Then something switched in me, and I kept thinking, oh, I need to be different now. I need to do things differently, or maybe I need to dress differently, or maybe I need to behave differently because I'm a mum, and mums need to be, this way. I don't know where I, got this from. But then when he got to about 6 months old, I thought, do you know what? I need to do something for me. I need to find something for me where I'm not mum, I'm not a wife, I'm not a teacher, I'm not this, I'm Anne.
Right.
And at the time I was going to a gym, and they had, first of all, they were doing boxercise, aero combat, so sort of boxing aerobics back then.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then there was a kickboxing class starting up. So I thought, right, I'll join this. And I joined it. I absolutely loved it. I was really good at it. And that's where it started. And I was me. I was an individual, and I found who I was again. I was still a mum, I was still a wife, but I was first and foremost Anne, me, and that's what a lot of parents lose sight of. And it's so important to have your own identity that's separate from your families. Obviously, you're a family, but you need your identity and to know who you are. And so I did kickboxing, and I passed all my gradings up until brown belt, which is the belt just before black. And then I got pregnant with our daughter, who's nearly 18. She's doing her A-levels at the moment. And then when she was 3 years old, I was ready to go back. And my kickboxing instructor wasn't doing it. So I thought, right, I need a different martial arts. So I joined where I am now, Tang Sudo. And I've been doing that for 14 years.
Wow.
And I've competed. I've competed a lot. I competed in the 2011 World Championships for that martial arts, and I won a bronze and silver medal.
Congratulations.
And back then as well, it was an all-male club. So it's all-male club, and I'm the only woman. It's full contact, no gloves, no pads. It's, and I absolutely love it. And yes, and then this year, so February of this year, well, from last year, I trained 5 to 6 times a week. And I passed my second Dan grading, and it was brutal.
I can imagine, yeah.
Relentless. It was seriously hard work. Bearing in mind, when I did it, I was 50, I'm 53 now, but I was 52. So I'm 52, training 6 times a week, martial arts. So it's full on, it's intense. I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I run my business, all these things. So it was hard. It was the toughest thing I've ever done, I'll be honest, but my God, so rewarding.
It is. I mean, first thing is, let me congratulate you for, getting the second down. Number 2 is that you don't look that old at all.
Thank you.
Number 3 is that, when you're talking about connecting yourself back, how important was it? Because, I've been doing a research on self-disconnection, which started from the childhood, right? How important was for you? Because what I have come across a number of times is that as we're living in the world where we've been recognized by our designation, I'm a technologist, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, I'm that. But then I'm no longer Raza then anymore. I've been recognized by something else. How important was it for you to be Anne, then the daughter, then a wife, then a mother? How important was it in that sequence?
So important, because if I don't know who I am, everything else around me, everyone else around me, it doesn't flow, it doesn't work. I've got to, it all, you'll have heard this saying a lot, and everyone hears it, but it all begins with me. It all begins within. So I have to be confident with who I am. I have to know my identity, my true self, my values, what's important to me. and to make, I post about this a lot in my business, that my self-care needs are met, because as parents we often put our children first, and yes, they're important, we put them first. However, if we don't put ourselves first before them, there'll come a point when actually we haven't got anything to give, because we're lacking. We have all these to-do lists and everything else and everyone else, and our children are all up here, and we're sort of out of sight. But we need to have our connection and our identity in order for everything else to work. And I'm a master NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist and a personal evolution coach. So all of those things come back to what you were saying about connecting with who we are and knowing where our limited beliefs were created, and being able to get rid of those limited beliefs, being able to find the root of that problem. And obviously I trained back in 2020 and 2021. So, I've cleared up all my limited beliefs, all the stuff, all the things that I had holding me back. And that's what I do as a coach for other people. I do that, for children, teenagers, young people, parents, because it changes everything. Once you know how your mind works, your thought patterns, your behavior patterns, everything we do comes back to those things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the sooner they realize, the better it is for them, because their life becomes easier. And then I'm sure the divorce rate and the relationship issues goes down, because obviously we start understanding who we are.
Definitely.
Yes. And it's been an honor to have you on that. I'd love to keep you longer, but unfortunately that's all the time we have. But I don't know if people have any questions or anything, but if they do, I'll send that across to your way. And if they want to find you, because I'm sure just like me, everybody has children. If they want to find you, where they look for you then?
So they can find me, actually, before I say that, thank you, Raza. It's been absolutely lovely being here. And I know we had a brief chat before we started, and we could talk forever. I know we could. I could talk forever anyway, but I know
I'm learning, and that's why my wife is telling me, it's like, you talk to myself. Really? When did that happen? Okay,
it's a great thing. It's wonderful to find a man that likes to talk. That's good. It's a good thing.
Oh, she doesn't like my talking, because I've overtook her. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
I could talk to you forever, Raza. I could. And it's been a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me on. And if people want to find me, they can find me on my website, which is www.behaviourfirstconsultancy.co.uk. And they can contact me. I will send. Should I send the contact details to you, or shall I say them now? It's up to you.
No, say that and then put in the post as well, and the Facebook, and then we can, because you can put that under the video. Yes. The video is live on my web page, so Facebook page, so you can put that under there as well.
Contact me by email, which is Annie, ANNIE _goldsmith@hotmail.com. And they can phone me on 077, I had to think about that then, sorry, 07754 882127. And like I say, I'll post the video and post those on there again.
Fantastic. And I'd love to keep you for longer, but I think I'm getting a call with the missus as well. I've been told off eventually, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm just one of those persons who always like to live in the doghouse, but there you go. That's the men's life. But I really
enter into that conversation, otherwise we will be here forever.
I know I shouldn't be saying that, but a few friends of mine, my coach's friend, the ladies, right? They talk about woman power, and I'm thinking, it's like, where is the issue? Because we men born into a woman, so the mother is dictating all his life. Then he gets married, the wife is dictating all his life. Then he gets a daughter, she dictate his life. Then even the sat nav has got the woman voice. So where is the power?
You can change the sat nav to a man's voice,
I know. The ladies probably do. No, exactly. Ladies probably do that. But where is the power issue? Because man doesn't have any power.
Oh, they do. You gotta connect with yourself, Raza. That's what it's about.
No, but it's lovely to have you on that talk show, and keep in touch, and then definitely let's. I know I haven't been to your part of the world, Milton Keynes and Aylesbury side. I know it's a long overdue, so maybe we can grab a tea or coffee, something like that.
That would be great. I'd love that. Thank you so much, Raza.
Look after yourself. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.